It is my pleasure now to introduce to you our next speaker, Anne Bartlett Bragg. Anne is the Managing Director of Ripple Effects Group, busily changing the world with social media. She's also an academic at UTS and has a keen interest in education and the changes that education is facing, both the opportunities for education to reinvent itself, but also certain threats that are being perceived. And she's going to talk to you about her views of that, because she's been researching this in her PhD for quite a while. So she's also teaching at UTS. And while I'll stretch this monologue for her to get ready, yes. Are we all right? And on stage.
I think I'm on.
Great. Thank you very much.
I'm sort of wired up here, double mic'd. It's kind of a bit intimidating. Thank you. And I'd just like to acknowledge Adam the First. Are you here, Adam the First? No, he's not. Adam, who was on first, perfectly hijacked my presentation. So thank you very much for that. So actually, he did set the context for me, so I'm going to take it from there and use what he said as the basis. So do you remember what he said? Got all that clearly? Fantastic. All right. So technology. Don't you hate technology? Is it on? It's on. It's on. It's on. It's on. Okay. Let's start. I want you to recall a profound learning experience that you had recently. You only got a few seconds to do this. So what's a profound learning experience? It's a kind of aha moment, something that sort of goes, oh, fantastic. A new skill. It might be something you read and went, that makes sense. Where did that occur? Who are you with? What was the context? And what have you done about it? Now, this might not be an easy task. I actually ran this process on a couple of people who actually had trouble. That's a problem, but we'll come back to it. So I want you to remember that one, and we'll come back to it later. Okay? Sorry. What we're experiencing in education and learning is a fundamental shift. There is a flaw in our whole current approach and concept of learning and where it occurs. This is not just based on our institutions. This is our whole society, our whole political system. And a really big question I have is, why is higher education not on the political agenda for this election? I know the academics in the room can answer that one. But as individuals also, the shift is dramatic around learning and how we're doing it and what we're going about. And what I'm seeing, and it started, as Kai said, I've been doing a thesis on this for a long time. I love the way they say that, a long time. So since the early 2000s, the Web 2 technologies have been impacting how we learn, and that has shifted things a lot. But I just see an irresolvable tension at the moment with these disruptive technologies and our current approach to learning. And I really think if we don't do something about it, well, I'll leave the rest to you to extrapolate those ideas. But our whole shift, the student needs to be redefined. What does it mean to be a learner? What is a teacher? And where do we do it? Essentially, everything's disconnected. There is study after study coming out about students, the voice of the graduates. McKinsey just released one. There's a big one out of the UK. It's out of the UK universities. It's out of everywhere. Department of Education did one in Australia in, 2009. It says something. They're disconnected. They're not engaged with their institution. When I first went to uni in my first life, before a lot of you had grown up, we went for full time. That was what we did. We were on campus full time. Now you see students come in, do their subject and go again. What's happened? Where's the debate? But with that, what students are finding is that what they're getting Their qualifications are irrelevant. Employers aren't interested in what degree they have, what their specialty field was. Very few are. Sorry, there will be exceptions to that. But overall, what the employers are saying is they're dissatisfied with the current graduates. Why are they dissatisfied with current graduates? What is missing? Is it the capabilities? Is it the content? And, you know, I'm all for arguing that universities aren't there to provide workplace-trained people. That's what vocational education does. But we've still got a major disconnect. And we really have to fundamentally challenge some of our models around that. The whole belief of what it means to learn and how to teach people has to change, because quite honestly, most students are teaching themselves and are more engaged by their personal experiences than they are with their classroom experiences. So let's talk about content. Content is fundamentally valued, and again, this is coming out in all the research, that we highly value quality, relevant content, but we want it accessible, easily accessible. Remember libraries? When libraries first opened, they were going to be the major disruptors. Books with everything in them. People were going to go into a library, they were going to sit down, they were going to learn everything. Teachers, education was going to be irrelevant. Well, that worked, didn't it? Then we brought in TVs, and Adam II just talked about TVs. And videos, and some people may remember how we used to push the video equipment into the room in front of a classroom, put in a very badly shot video and say, learn. And then we come back in as the trainer, and the trainer would say, did you learn something? And then it was usually after lunch they did that, because the trainer couldn't be bothered thinking of anything else to do. Training is what we do to dogs and babies. It has nothing to do with learning. But content is critical, and think of the access of content that we have now. Learners are saying, students are saying, why do I need to go and sit in a classroom when I can get great access to great content from amazing people on YouTube? I can get it anywhere. So we've got a really fundamental problem. My next problem, accreditation. This whole qualification thing is a problem. Our whole basis of assessment is about assessing what people, we test what people have learnt to repeat. We don't test, it's not focused on learning, it's individualistic. It's not the Olympics, it's not about winning, but it is. Because if you don't have the right qualification, then that matters, but then it doesn't, because employers say it doesn't. So there's just all this stuff going on. But our current testing is frightening. You know, I'd be lecturing away happily on a topic that I thought was extremely engaging. And some bright young spark would put a hand up and say, is this in the assessment? And I go, oh my God, I've got 30 seconds or less to go. It is now. Because the answer to that is, if it's not in the assessment task, why are you bothering to tell us? We have trained learners to be Pavlov's dogs. You pay attention to what is relevant. It is only relevant if it's being assessed, because if it's not being assessed, it's not relevant. That's just fundamentally not right. So we really need to think about this and what do the qualifications mean. And I often sort of sit in the organisational realm, and I've just killed my notes, and I look at competency-based training, which I think has become feral in that context. We're only testing people to produce a behaviour that means you are competent, or not yet competent because we don't fail. What about all the other behaviours we need to be effective workers, to be engaged, to be productive? How do we get competent in those? You know, there's just some real challenges we need to really have a bit of a look at. So the question is, what happens to the educator? Well, this is really scary, because when we teach teachers to be teachers in an education environment, we are teaching them on that model that Adam I was talking about. That model that was mechanistic, process-driven, control, I'm the expert, I'm here and I'm telling you. Well, sorry, that just doesn't work in a disrupting world. That role has to change. And, you know, I've been carrying on about this for quite some time, evidence, slide. 2008, I think, was the first time I presented it. And I demonstrated through my favourite resource, Wikipedia, that the adult learner or the adult educator was endangered because they fit the criteria of being endangered. Huh. Does anyone pay attention? Well, they'll have to, because in 2013, ASTD, the American Society of Training Development, is also saying organisational trainers will be irrelevant and extinct in the not too distant future. So let's take a look at the disruptors. What is causing some of this? And we have the speed at the moment is extraordinary. We can barely keep up. But I think the biggest disruptors that have the most impact right now and are really, really moving fast are our devices. And I think for the first time it was quite profound that Mary Meeker, who does an annual internet sort of trends and reports and has been for a long time, this is the first time since the late 90s that she's said devices are more important than software. So think about the devices, not these microphones and things, but, you know, the Google Glasses. There's something on Mashable today where a surgeon is operating with his Google Glasses and the information is coming up on his Google Glasses. That's version 1. You know, extrapolate, let your minds go wild what we can do. Augmented reality, contextual learning. Your devices are critical. The Internet of Things, wearable devices. Wait for the watches to come out. Context-driven, situated, socially constructed, engaging. It's fundamentally pushing the way we are thinking and learning. And then there's this thing. Has anyone done a MOOC? Yes, a few MOOCers. Was it good? Loved it? Dropped out? Dropped out, okay. This is reminiscent of what was happening to e-learning in the late 90s, early 2000s. Content was going to be available to anyone, anytime, anywhere, through e-learning, through your laptops, computers and desktops. They're saying the same things now. For those that aren't familiar, a MOOC is a massive open online course. And they're not new. They started sort of back 2007, 2008. I don't have enough time in this forum, but if you want to debate it with me and you've got a day or so, I'm happy to go through a lot of the issues with it. But we've got a couple of big consortias that have jumped on board, starting out of the US. I'll talk about Europe in a sec. Coursera is one, Udacity and edX. And they've got the big unis behind them. And they're putting out their content free, and everybody's going online and doing a course. Except they're not, because it's actually, you know, quite hard to learn in this environment if you don't know how to learn already, because we're not taught to learn that way. So the poor old learner is dropping out. 20,000 people in one course. Okay, it's a problem, all right? But I love these. There is enormous potential. The next 6 months are going to show what we're looking for. We're looking for, or the universities, the institutions are looking for financial models. Models that are changing, that are scalable, that are going to work. And there is hope with these. These are exciting. These are the most exciting thing that's happened in a decade. But all the technology. So let's see where they go. But we have got some challenges. Some future possibilities. I just want to share some thoughts with you. This is coming out of my own research. We're connected the whole time. That doesn't stop, so we've got to leverage that. Everything's contextual. Where I am now, who I'm situated with, who I socially share that with, all that sort of construction around ideas. It's collective, so we're thinking as a group, not as individuals. This is where the MOOCs are exciting. And of course, it's mobile. But if we think about that and look at this sort of different perspective, this different view of learning, and think about it, what we're sort of looking at is perhaps individualised learning pathways. Learning pathways aren't new, by the way. Learning contracts aren't new. But an individual takes responsibility. You work with some kind of educational advisor, And it's probably through a university, because I think us academics do know quite a lot about this stuff. And we help you create a personalised curricula that will take you through your life, through your workplace. You carry around things like e-portfolios, which might be an old term, but they're sort of, you know, your ongoing evidence. You're collecting it. You get qualifications that are relevant to you. And you just keep this sort of ongoing lifelong learning. It's a very philosophical position, but it's exciting because we can tap into MOOCs. The content is there. It's stunning. But we need to construct it in different ways. So there's some really, really exciting, optimistic views. But it's not about the technology. It's disrupting it, but we've needed this disruption for a long time. The connected educator this is a loose term. I don't think I'm attached to it. But it's kind of where my own research has pointed, that the fundamental issue is actually about the educators, that we need to let go of expertise about content, let the learners find it, that we're connectors of people, we know who to point them to, we know how to curate or point to resources. We're the conversationalist, the coordinator of their learning pathway, because that's what we do best. And it's not a skill set. You will not become competent. It's a mindset. And without that mindset, if you try to teach like this, you will fail. And our learners need to learn again. Yes, it's a cat. I had to put an animal in somewhere. We need to learn how to learn again. And actually, Howard Rheingold's written a really good book about NetSmart, it's sort of out there, around some of the literacies. And again, Adam alluded to this. Some of the new literacies that we've got to find, how to manage our conscious distraction. You know, all this stuff coming is really hard. How to learn how to do that. How to be reflective. How to be critical. And I don't mean critical as in negative. I mean determining what's relevant, what's not, what's quality, what's not. We need to learn that. We need to learn social and digital literacies. We need to learn how to be collective and stop being so individualistic. Group assignments are highly valuable, but not in the way we use them at the moment, because someone always ends up doing all the bloody work. It was usually me. So we need to learn how to learn again, and then the MOOCs come to life. Then we get exciting opportunities. So I want you to really challenge your thinking. This is about me trying to disrupt your concepts. I want you to reconsider how we recognise learning. For those of you that were struggling at my first question, that is really important. Was that learning that you thought of, that profound moment, in a classroom? You don't answer, please don't upset me. It probably was where you first went to think of it. Unless you're a highly skilled learner, and there probably are some of those in the room with the academics, but typically we go, oh, when did I last do a class? It's not about that. You need to rethink the concept of knowledge and content, where it is, who's got it, where it belongs, what I do with it and how I share it. Create it. And prepare for the learning renaissance. This is when we reinvigorate learning. Learning is now exciting as of this moment. You are empowered to be excited about learning opportunities. Get out there and let the renaissance begin. Thank you.